Hi, how you doing? I've never done something like this before, so bear with me. I wanted to make a video to share my testimony of what God has recently done for me in my life, because I feel like this would be a blessing to others who could hear it. So, hang out with me while I do my hair for church and tell you my story. When I was 6 years old, I was diagnosed with asthma. And I had it so bad to where any type of activity, strenuous activity, allergy attacks, sneezing, weather changes, really anything would cause my asthma to flare up. I was hospitalized quite a few times because of it. And as the years went on and I got older, it got worse. Well, fast forward to August of 2023, I was experiencing severe asthma symptoms where I didn't have any relief when it came to taking my nebulizers, and that's the liquid albuterol form. Every year I would take that when I had bronchitis, and it was very effective with helping me breathe and all of that. But in August of 2023, I had gone to see a specialist, a pulmonologist, because I was experiencing symptoms that were so bad it wasn't being managed by albuterol or inhalers. So I saw my pulmonologist, and she diagnosed me with COPD. I was devastated when I heard that. I didn't realize at the time that there was more than one form of COPD. I had only ever heard it when it came to like emphysema. I learned that there is a chronic bronchitis form, and my asthma had gotten so bad that it transitioned into COPD. She said that my lungs were so bad that they had started to deteriorate from the bottom up, and the medication that I was going to start taking would stop that. So I was put on something called Dupixent, and that's a biologic. It was to help with my breathing as well as my asthma and to kind of stop what was happening with my lungs. Imagine going to walk from your bedroom to your kitchen, or from your bedroom to your car, or really any short distance. I was doing that and I was struggling to breathe. It was really hard. It was just like my lungs were failing me. And so I was really up to do whatever she wanted me to do, what she wanted me to try. She gave me samples of this medication called Trelegy, and I started to try that, and I was really excited because it started working. And so we sent off for my insurance to approve this medication. And if you've never heard of Trelegy, it's a very expensive medication. Each inhaler is only good for 14 days. It only has 14 doses. So I would need 2 plus some from another to be able to make it through a month. And each inhaler is $900. So factor that in, 2 plus, it would be $1,800 plus dollars for 1 month of medication. And my insurance denied it. So they wanted me to try other forms of medication. So I did, and they weren't working. So we sent in for another approval to try and get them to pay for this medication. So we sent for an appeal. Advair wasn't working, Spiriva wasn't working, and I tried many other forms of medication, and they just weren't doing the job. So I did what the doctor wanted me to do. I kept doing what I should have been doing, and I kept taking the other medications that the insurance wanted me to try. And we were just going to keep pushing and see what we could come up with. Fast forward about August of 2024, I submitted for my third appeal for Trelegy, because nothing else that the doctors had wanted me to do was working, or the insurance had wanted me to do was working. So I figured, okay, we've done all the things, we've tried all the other medications. Mind you, I've been praying for the last 12 years for God to just deliver me of this, and I knew that he could heal, and I know that he's a healer because I have been healed from him in the past. So I knew that it wasn't out of his realm of possibilities. So I just kept focusing on doing what I felt like God was leading me to do, because I felt that this medicine was the way to go. So I sent in for my third appeal, and it got denied. At that point, I was so frustrated. I was so upset, and I was discouraged because I didn't understand why I kept getting denied. I have tried everything that they wanted me to try, and nothing was working. So the only logical, or what I thought was a logical explanation, would be for them to approve my medication. So after I got my third denial letter, this was September 19th of 2024. It was a Friday night, and we were on our way to prayer night at church. I decided I was done. I decided that I was not going to take my medication anymore because it wasn't working. They wouldn't approve the one that did work, and I couldn't afford $1,800 a month on medication. So I told God that it was in his hands. I told God that I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep fighting the doctors and the insurance, and I felt like it was out of my hands, and I just gave it to him. I struggled to breathe for several days after that. It was hard. I just kept trusting in God and kept praying and telling him that he knows my body, and he knows what I need and what's best for me. So I just kept trusting in him and kept praying. September 24th of 2024, we went to a church service, and it was just a Tuesday midweek service. I was helping sing for our songs, and the Holy Ghost took over, and I started to worship and sing. And up to this point, it was really hard to worship the way I wanted to worship freely, because I was so limited by my breathing. I was so limited to what I felt like I could do, because I would start to hyperventilate, or my lungs would start to seize up, and my airways would start to close. And so I was always limited to what I could do for God, and it was really discouraging. Something that my mom told me just a couple days before this is, it's okay to be discouraged. Just don't live there. Feel the discouragement, feel the pain, but then give it to God and don't stay there. So that Tuesday night we were worshiping, and I was up on the platform singing, and then I felt a panic attack start coming on because I couldn't breathe. So I got off the platform and I tried to catch my breath and I tried to breathe. And remember, I'm not taking my inhalers at this point. It had been about 5 days since I had stopped all medication. And I remember the spirit it was just heavy all over the church. My mom had come and she stood next to me and she put her hand on my head and she started to pray for me. And the spirit hit me so hard, it knocked me into the pew, and I sat down and I started praying and speaking in tongues and worshiping God. And he opened up my airways to where I could breathe. And in the past, God has done this for me before, because this wasn't the first time I'd had an asthma attack in church and not been able to breathe. God has released my airways before and given me relief. So I was thankful for that, and I was thanking him for that, and I was worshiping him, and I went through the rest of the church service and I felt God tell me, you've been healed. So I claimed that night. And I testified to that night that God told me that I was healed of my COPD and my asthma. When you live your entire life limited to what you can do because of your breathing, you know not to expect much out of your lungs. If you are someone who struggles with asthma, I see you. And God sees you. We are in April of 2025. Today is April 15th of 2025. And in 4 days, it will be 7 months since I stopped taking steroid medication for my lungs. And on the 24th of April, it'll be 7 months since God has healed me of COPD and of asthma. I have not had an asthma attack since. I can walk with my kids. I can go to the park and I can just be there with them without having to take a break because I can't breathe. And I'm so thankful that God saw me in that moment of discouragement and he didn't let me stay there. I want to encourage someone today that if you are at a point in your walk with God, or if you are struggling with a sickness or a disease that the doctor says is not curable, and the doctor says that there's no way it will go away, we have a God that surpasses all doctors and surpasses everything that they can say. Last month I went back to my pulmonologist and she listened to my lungs and she was amazed at how clear they were. And I told her that I hadn't been taking medication. I told her that I was healed. And she was amazed. She couldn't believe the improvement. Because when I saw her in 2023, it was my lungs were bad. They were the worst that they had ever been, and she was there in that moment. So I'm just thankful that I was able to be a witness. I'm thankful that God has healed me. And I can't stop thanking him and praising him for this. I can worship and I can sing and I can dance and I can jump and I can run like I've wanted to when worshiping him, when I was limited because of how I was breathing. So I hope this encouraged someone today, and thank you for listening, and I hope everyone has a great day.